Hey guys, Super Airsoft back at again with another Airsoft video, and today we're going to be breaking down the differences between 3 of the main upgrade pathways with Airsoft AEG rifles. We're going to be comparing the pros and cons as well as cost with upgrading your AEG rifle into a high-speed SSG, DSG, or completely converting it to HPA. But before we get things started, remember to like the video if you end up liking and subscribe if you want more content just like this, and comment down below if you have any questions regarding anything. So to start things off, SSG stands for single sector gear, DSG stands for dual sector gear, and HPA is high pressured air. So you're powering the shots with your gun through air rather than a battery. SSG and DSGs are powered through a LiPo battery or any other battery technology that exists, but it is powered by a battery. Each of these upgrade paths have their own performance benefits as well as drawbacks, and also time commitment benefits and drawbacks. Let's start with SSG. This is the simplest of the bunch. Pretty much your standard AEG rifle that you get out of the box will have an SSG. You have one sector gear that does a full rotation every time you click that trigger, which means a full rotation will make one BB go through. SSGs are more mechanically simple, therefore more mechanically reliable, making an excellent choice if you're going to be looking for something that you can rely on and something that's a little bit easier to work on. Moving on over is a DSG. This is a dual sector gear. It has 2 sets of teeth opposite of each other, so every time you pull in that trigger, it does a half rotation to pull back the piston and fire a BB. Since it does that half rotation, the next time you pull in that trigger, it does another half rotation for the second set of teeth that are on the same sector gear. And after 2 trigger pulls, you'll have finished the entire full rotation of it. This is essentially doubling the potential rate of fire. DSG builds are well known for super high rate of fire and trigger responsive AEG builds. Lots of speed softers, lots of competitive players, people who like to play indoors prefer having a DSG setup because of that high rate of fire and crisp trigger response. Now, with SSGs being simple and easy to work on, DSGs are quite the opposite. It does require a little bit more advanced knowledge, really knowing what it is that you're actually working on. There are a lot of modifications that need to be done. There's a lot more work that goes into making a DSG work. Now, DSGs bring out a high amount of stress in your gearbox, making them less reliable, in my opinion, making your gun overall less durable in the long run. There is a lot more maintenance that comes with the extra amount of stress that a DSG build can put onto the gun. And our third upgrade pathway is HPA. And this is the one that I prefer after having built an SSG, a DSG, and an HPA gun. You are converting an AEG into one that's powered by high pressured air. Unlike a DSG and SSG, which uses a battery to power up the entire gun, mechanically moving gears, pulling pistons back, and shooting things. This is as simple as buying a drop-in kit, putting it into your gun, making sure everything runs smoothly, plugging stuff in, and then going out about your day. HPA setups are very well known for reliability, consistency, and easy tunability, but this all comes at a really high cost. Converting your AEG down this upgrade pathway will cost you a very significant amount of money, because you are going to be buying a line, a regulator, a tank, the HPA system itself, potentially a trigger board, and a couple of other accessories that can make your HPA experience better in the long run. So now that you've got a brief introduction into all 3 upgrade pathways, let's go back into SSGs. So if you're going to be taking your run-of-the-mill Airsoft AEG M4, for example, and upgrading it down the SSG pathway to make it more reliable, make it have a higher rate of fire, you're going to be needing to upgrade a couple of things. Depending on the base model gun that you're starting things off with, you're going to want to start by upgrading the motor. You want a high torque motor. These higher torque motors can potentially give you a better rate of fire, crisper trigger pull, more reliability, better heat distribution in the handle. And if you're trying to pull heavier springs to get more FPS, you would definitely need. The next upgrade would be a higher speed SSG gear set. Most Airsoft AEGs, especially the more basic ones, come with an 18:1 gear set. And if you're looking at wanting a higher rate of fire or a crisper trigger pull, since you're upgrading your gearbox anyways, you want to throw in potentially a 13:1 or 10:1 gear set. And this will come with the added benefit of having reinforced high quality gears that will give you a lot more reliability than the standard ones that most gearboxes come with. And since you are throwing in a brand new set of gears, you want to make sure you are shimming the gearbox. This is essentially making sure that the tolerances are just so perfectly right in your gearbox. That way gears aren't wobbling around, all the teeth of the gears are meshing properly, and there is no added unnecessary movement that can cause extra wear and tear within the gearbox. You want to make sure you got a good quality pair of shims. You don't want some garbage shims. Shims are very affordable, so when you're buying them, try to buy the best ones that your budget can accommodate for. Higher quality ones have a smoother finish, etc., etc. While you're shimming the gearbox, you want to make sure you're lubing everything up. That way you can reduce the friction and wear and tear in all your parts. Shimming a gearbox as well as lubing a gearbox Honestly, if you're opening up your gearbox, you want to make sure you do this for either the SSG or the DSG setup regardless. So we've got the new motor, we've got the new gear set, we've got shims, and we've lubed up the gearbox. Now, the last upgrade that I recommend is getting a better MOSFET / trigger assembly. Two of my favorite brands, Perrin as well as Gate. They make incredible products that you can just drop into your gearbox, which will give you a better trigger assembly, a better response, a lot more features such as binary, adjustable rate of fire, pre-cocking, yada, yada, yada. These MOSFETs also have the added reliability of controlling the electricity a lot better. Some stock airsoft guns can't handle a 11.1 volt LiPo battery. So if you have a very, very basic airsoft gun and you're putting in all these new parts, but you're not able to use an 11.1 battery in order to increase your rate of fire, you definitely want a better MOSFET at that point. So you can utilize a bigger battery, a better battery to pull in a lot more voltage so your gun can run faster and better. So overall, we're looking at about 4 or 5-ish parts going down the SSG route. And this will probably run you between 50 to maybe 150 bucks, depending on whether or not you get that MOSFET or a better motor. In my opinion, I would recommend all of the above and doing everything that I talked about, especially if you're going to be opening up your gearbox anyways. Might as well throw in all these good new parts and upgrade all of it all at once. You're going to be getting a lot better performance compared to a stock AEG that you can buy from the store. But on the flip side, you don't have to do all that. You can start by just upgrading your motor. You can start by just upgrading your gear set, You can start by just upgrading your trigger assembly / MOSFET. SSG builds are easy enough and flexible enough for you to just start slowly. It's also a great way to start learning more about the gearbox and how things work. There is a fair bit of work that goes into learning and actually opening up stuff and doing stuff, but it is easier compared to the next option. DSGs or dual sector gears. Now, with DSGs, there are a few required parts. You can't really upgrade one thing and not upgrade the other. It's a lot of the same parts as an SSG, but you need to upgrade a lot of these parts all at the same time rather than one by one as you progress in your airsoft hobby. Starting off with the dual sector gear itself. These can run relatively expensive because you are getting that specialized dual sector gear with teeth on both sides. Now, since the nature of DSGs is that you're only pulling the spring about halfway, because there are about half the amount of teeth, you are going to need a stronger spring so that when the DSG pulls the spring halfway, you're still getting the same amount of FPS as you would have with a single sector gear pulling a spring the whole way. Now, the spring is being pulled back by a piston. That piston, you're going to have to do some modifications to, potentially grinding off a couple of teeth, correcting for the angle of engagement, and maybe drilling a couple holes to make that piston a lot lighter. Alternatively, you can buy a lightweight piston with a corrected angle of engagement and less teeth. This would be the easiest approach, but again, you are now adding cost. Now, since you have that dual sector gear, you have the stronger spring, and you have a lightweight piston with all the corrections, that really heavy spring that you just bought isn't going to be pulled by some random motor. You need a high torque, proper motor to pull back that really heavy spring. So now you have 4 parts that you are required to purchase. Next up is buying a MOSFET. You want a new MOSFET. You want one that can handle an 11.1 volt LiPo. You want one that has pre-cocking. You want one that has different abilities such as binary, adjusting your rate of fire, and stuff like that. That way you have those features that'll help you unlock that DSG's full capability. There's also DSG modes on some of these MOSFETs, which helps out a lot. So now we're at 5 parts. Shimming and lubing. We talked about this with the SSGs, same concept, but it is even more critical when it comes to DSGs so that everything runs smoothly. You also want to make sure that the gearbox as a whole is reinforced and high quality. I've heard of cases where gearboxes will just split because of the added amount of stress and the high rate of fire that comes with a DSG. So a DSG upgrade might not be the best if you have a very cheap, like we're talking about $100 Airsoft AEG M4. The gearbox that comes with that M4, probably not reinforced in quality enough for you to convert that to a DSG. So if you add that cost into it, you're now adding a gearbox. Lastly is going to be the tappet plate. This is the plate that's pulled back with the piston. You just have to make a simple modification to correct when it gets released so the BB gets fired. This is a very easy modification. It can take some trial and error. If you want to make things easy, you can add this to the list of costs and buy pre-cut tappet plates. So as you can tell, while DSG builds are quite impressive, there are a lot more required parts that you need to buy. It also requires a lot more skill. Now, there's a lot of modification. There's a lot of knowing how things work. There's a lot of research that goes into what motor do I need to get for what spring? What spring do I need to get a specific level of FPS? What DSG gear ratio do I need in order to get the rate of fire that I'm looking for? What MOSFET has the right programming that's good for DSGs? Is my piston lightweight enough? Do I have reinforced teeth? Is my gearbox strong enough? If your gearbox comes with bearings, do you keep using the bearings or switch it out for bushings because of the added stress? There are lots and lots of things that go with DSGs, a lot of learning. So this is not beginner friendly, and it is also expensive. I would say double the cost of an SSG, because you do need to buy all of these parts all at once so that everything kind of just meshes together and works when you put it all together. And if something breaks, maintenance is rough with these. This is speaking from personal experience as someone who attempted to build a DSG. I did, and it was decent. It was great. It was just kind of a headache to work with, which is why I went to the HPA route, which is option number 3. Woohoo to HPA. I love HPA. I will tell you to just save up your money and shove it all into HPA. That's my opinion. Don't hate me for liking HPA, okay? If DSG's parts are about $150 to $250, HPA is going to cost you between $350 to $550, $600, and it can go on. But it is very worth it. I have a full video going over how to purchase your HPA parts. What all do you need? What are things to consider when it comes to purchasing HPA parts? Linked up here somewhere. Go ahead and watch that. There's a lot more detail in that video than I'm going to be going over today. So for today, if we're converting our basic AEG M4, the main required parts are the drop-in engine itself, a tank that can hold your air, a regulator that can regulate the pressure that comes from your tank, and a line that goes into your gun so it can provide the air from the tank indirectly into the gun and make it actually shoot. You will also need to buy a very tiny little battery to power your engine that's inside of your Airsoft. Those are the required parts. Now, there are a few modifications that you might need to make to your gearbox so that you can fit certain electronics and get things up and running. But the overall hassle and headache that comes with upgrading to an SSG or upgrading to a DSG and working on AEGs is all mitigated when it comes to HPA. Now, there are a few headaches with HPA. I will give you that. But they're a lot smaller than AEGs. Maintenance is also easier with HPA, in my opinion. There's a lot less parts involved with the HPA process. It's not mechanical unless you do decide to get the Kythera, which is a mechanical HPA engine by Polarstar. But for the most part, everything is electro-pneumatic. Most of the kits that you buy to convert your AEG rifle are also very simple drop-in ones. So the only real work and knowledge you need is the know-how to modify your gearbox to make things fit and work. There's another video up here going over how I converted my friend's Airsoft AEG rifle into one powered by HPA. We threw in a Polarstar jack, we threw in a couple of optional other upgrades, and it's essentially a full-on how-to guide on how to do this entire process. So if you're considering this HPA route and you have the money stocked up, watch the 2 videos that I mentioned earlier. They're all up here somewhere. One of the main drawbacks when it comes to going down this third route is the less mobility that you get with having to carry a tank as well as a line. When it comes to AEGs, you just have a battery that's inside your gun and bada boom, bada bam, you're just running and shooting. With HPAs, it is a little bit more cumbersome. You have the added weight of the tank, you have the line that can get caught on things, and you still have a little battery that you do need to charge the night before to put in to power up your HPA engine. So there you have it. A very simple breakdown between SSGs, DSGs, and HPAs. Couple things to consider when going through each of the 3 options, debating which route you want to take. Whether you're a DIY tech that likes to learn and build and make modifications to stuff, or you're just one that wants to throw in a couple things, make a couple of simple modifications, get things up and running. Hopefully this video was helpful in giving you an idea of what your next steps should be when it comes to upgrading your Airsoft gun. I hope this video helped. Comment down below if you need any questions. I have experience in all 3 of these upgrade paths, so let me know if you need anything. Other than that, like the video if you end up liking it, subscribe if you want more content, and I'll see you in the next one.